Yeah, the other day I was on the phone with Will and I was just like counting like 6 of these, and he was like, "What the f?" going down? I was just like, "Wait, don't worry, yeah, you don't need to record this part. We'll record when we're actually like gagging on it."
There is a loose framework that anyone can use when they're getting into the ball python breeding hobby in order to understand which genes go together and how can you layer these different genes together in order to form a viable project. So for this week's video, we're going to go over that framework. We're going to talk about some of the best genes that fit into each of the different categories that we are going to discuss, and we are also going to be going down to Atlanta, Georgia in order to meet up with Bob Voot and some of our other friends in the reptile hobby. Anyways, my name's Steven with Leviathan, and let's get to it. Oh, well.
That's not what they meant. He meant you all walk out and then close the door. Yep. You ready, my darling?
Yep.
Alright, let's go. We are on our way to Atlanta to hang out with Mary. We haven't seen Mary in a while and we missed her, so we're gonna go say hi. That's all I'm going to see.
Oh. And we got Brittany and Andrew from Moody Truck here with us. So, yeah, I'm visiting. Quick disclaimer as we get into this framework, and that is this is only one approach that you can use toward your ball python breeding projects. But it's not the only way to do it, and there are definitely going to be combos that exist that don't neatly fit into this framework that are absolutely incredible. So this is intended as a loose guide to help you understand what morphs go together and which ones you might want to consider picking up so that way you can hit your goals later on rather than breeding for 2, 3, maybe even 5 years and then realizing that the morphs that you have and the projects that you've built up don't actually work together. So with all that said, let's jump into the 3 different categories that we are going to be grouping genes into, and those are the pattern genes, the color genes, and the enhancement genes. And with each of these different categories, we're going to dive into them in a little bit more depth and give some examples and talk about how they all work together.
And then we got this car, and I was driving it for a couple months. My old car, my 2015 Chevrolet Malibu, to get it to pop the trunk, you had to go to the back seat and pull the dog leash that I had tied to the emergency release in the hatch. So I get this car and now I have a button I can push from up here, I can push it back there, I can push it on my car key, and my trunk just opens. I am a bougie now. So my sister comes over one day and I go to her trunk and I push the button and her trunk doesn't open. And I was like, oh, it's locked. So I go back inside, I get her keys, I unlock her car, and I go and I push the button and it doesn't open. And I'm like, her button is broken on her car. And I push it one more time and then I realize I have to lift it. I have to open the trunk. And I was so embarrassed. Have you ever been like to somebody who's like, oh my god, I can't get my car unlocked because my key fob died, and you're like, put the key in the door? I feel that because God forbid I have to open a trunk now.
Welcome.
First category that we want to talk about are the pattern genes, and the pattern genes often form the bedrock. They are the foundation, they are the backbone of pretty much every single ball python breeding project in the entire hobby. And the reason why is that pattern genes often are not super stunning on their own if you're comparing them a single gene pattern gene to a normal, but they allow you to put other genes with them, and the combos that they create tend to often be very reactive, and they still contain some elements of the original base pattern mutation. So a perfect example to illustrate this is the clown morph. So clowns on their own might look a little different than a normal ball python, where they have a really strong dorsal stripe with them. And they have a very distinctive head stamp that pretty much nothing else in the ball python hobby comes close to. But if you are comparing a clown to something like an albino, most people who are not involved in the ball python breeding hobby are probably going to pick the albino over the clown because it's so much more bright and so much more visually stunning just on a single gene clown versus a single gene albino. But clown shines because you can layer in so many other genes into the clown project, and you can still retain those key characteristics of the clown, such as the head stamp and the strong dorsal stripe, but you are able to manipulate the pattern in different ways, so that way you can really let the other morphs shine as well, because clown isn't so strong that it covers everything up. So some other pattern genes that are really popular in the ball python breeding world are pied, and for the longest time I felt that clown and pied were about the two top reigning morphs in the entire industry. That said, in recent years, pied seems to be not quite as popular and hasn't quite kept up with clown, but they are still some of the most beautiful animals that exist in the hobby, and I think that the biggest challenge with pied is the fact that you can have other genes get added into pied and it can make it an almost all-white snake. But we have also found that there are genes such as inchy or scrambler that seem to consistently produce more pattern in pieds, and I think that this is going to be the key working the pied project going forward, because you want that more pattern in there, so that way you can alter the colors and you can alter the pattern with other genes as well. The last of the three critical pattern genes that we need to talk about is puzzle, because puzzle 1000% is the hottest morph in the ball python hobby right now in 2025. And this is because puzzle combos really well with a ton of other genes in the ball python hobby, very similar to clown. But puzzle produces a completely different appearance and has a completely different pattern. So this means that just about every single amazing clown combo that has already been created can be remade with puzzle as the pattern morph rather than clown, and it opens up entirely new directions, and it allows people to explore the puzzle project in ways that just about every other morph doesn't work as well as puzzle, pied, or clown. Now, before we move away from the pattern morphs, I'm only talking about three in more depth, but there are a ton of different pattern mutations, such as monsoon, or hurricane, or inchy, or mojave. And all of these different genes can be combined with pattern mutations and do different influences on the pattern, and they can contribute to the combos. But for the purpose of this video, we are limiting each category to three, and I think that if you are starting out your ball python breeding operation and you're trying to figure out what genes to go with, if you pick at least one of either clown, pied, or puzzle, you are going to be setting yourself up well for the future. We're here. We've made it.
You wanna go say hi?
Yeah.
But it's a little much. Even I won't do an emu.
Yeah, it's just too much. It's like,
oh, there we go.
Like 17
That's good.
eggs at once.
Let me get some water. Let me boil this. So how many ball pythons do you guys have?
Oh, we only have 36.
Okay. How many?
36.
Okay, you know,
Imagine
like,
any other person in the world hearing
yeah,
that.
anyone else will be like 36 ball pythons. What the? But I guess, but in this context, you can say only.
Yeah.
So, for some reason, Steven decided to bring up balut, which is, I'll explain what the dish is. It's a fertilized egg. So these are chickens. It's a fertilized egg, and you boil them for roughly 10 minutes. So we're starting at 4:19. So.
See, see the size of that pot, Steven? For that many eggs?
And that's an
So you don't need a
size.
large pot for one egg?
Yeah, that's-
Roasting me.
And just so happens I have these sitting around the house all the time. So my in-laws brought it over the other day. So we'll boil these for 10 minutes.
My parents like, you know what Bob's craving?
Probably some baby chickens. These have been incubated. I think they hatch at 28 days. These probably been incubated for like 16 to 18 days. So there's like a small enough fetus or baby in there. It gotta be a little bit longer than that because some of them had feathers.
They
Don't look
incubate
at them
like
for
this.
too long.
Oh, okay.
They
You know,
incubate
like
like
don't
this.
stare. Don't look at them in the eyes.
I'm so scared to eat something.
Yeah, you just down it. You don't really have to stare at them in the eyes.
The next category is probably my favorite because it has my favorite gene in it, and that is the color morphs. So the color morphs, in my opinion, tend to be the most stunning, the most beautiful morphs when somebody who is outside of the ball python hobby looks in, and that is because they look wildly different than a normal ball python. So an example of a color morph is Xanthic, or Sunset, which is 1000% my favorite morph in the entire hobby, and all of the different albinos, both the T-positive albinos and the T-negative albinos. But with the color morphs, these are going to do things that really amp up and make a combo super different than anything resembling a normal ball python. So you could have, let's say, a puzzle, and if you combine a puzzle with an Xanthic, it is going to look like this beautiful silver snake, but it will still retain all of the puzzle pattern. And the same thing can be done with Sunset, or with Ultramel, or Monarch, or Lavender albino, or even regular albino. And by combining a color morph with a pattern morph, you are able to access a whole different spectrum that you can't do without that specific color morph. So when we're talking about the color morphs, I think that Xanthic is right now probably the hottest color morph in the entire hobby. And the reason for this is that we have seen amazing Xanthic combos come out, such as the DG Xanthic Clown. And we're going to get to DG next, but for right now, the idea of making a beautiful silver or white and black snake is something that really catches the eye, and it often contains really good contrast. And for a lot of different Xanthic morphs, especially if you have an enhancer gene, which we're going to talk about next, they age really well. Going away from Xanthic and talking about Sunset, which again is my favorite morph in the entire hobby, it is the best and really only way to get an entire color palette with those deep reds, those maroons, and those oranges as the base of a ball python project. Now, there are different combinations that also bring out some amazing oranges, but again, they often take multiple different genes, and that Sunset is really the only morph that does it just by itself. And then lastly, the albino morphs. This one has quite a bit of different morphs in it, such as Ultramel or Monarch if we're talking about the T-positive albinos, or even Banana in the T-positive albinos. But it also has the T-negative albinos like Lavender albino and regular albino, as well as Candy, Toffee, things like that. In my opinion, I tend to lean towards the T-positive albinos more. I think that you get a better variety of colors if you're looking at bananas, if you're looking at Ultramels, if you're looking at Monarchs. And when it comes to Sunset specifically, I think that the Ultramel Sunset is one of the best combos in the entire hobby. But that combo does technically break the framework where you get one morph of each of these different categories and put them together. But regardless, the Ultramel morphs, the Monarch morphs, the albinos, all of those different things, they can work amazing as the basis of your projects in the ball python breeding industry. Quick warning on the albino morphs, and that is when you are looking at some of the albino morphs like the original albino. The original albino is the lack of melanin that is creating the colors that you are seeing in the animal, and because of this, it can make it a little difficult to combine with other genes because it's stripping out an entire area that you previously would have been able to use, but by it having no melanin, it's going to make some of the other genes essentially do nothing if it's combined with an albino.
Kind of put the small end at the bottom. You crack it. Nice little.
Hopefully no feathers.
Broth in here. The yellow part's the yolk that I was talking about, and that's the baby.
Okay.
The rest of that is the baby. So you can go a little salt and pepper. Kind of just slide that on there. Scoop the baby out. Come on, little baby. And that's the baby.
Okay.
And that's the little, and this one's not very far along, you know, you see some eyeballs and, you know, whatnot, but there's no feathers or beak or nothing yet, so.
You really want to?
Yeah, really experienced the baby part.
Alright, I'm gonna try this.
Some
Like
egg,
the actual white part though, you know, like the egg whites that we're used to.
Yeah.
Don't really eat it because it's firmer.
Okay.
Whereas like
You
the yolk
looking?
is super creamy.
Let's try it. What is it called again?
Balut.
Alright, balut. Honestly, it does taste pretty good. It doesn't like.
See, there's like a little weird membrane that's on top, and yeah.
You really sell it, Bob.
There you go. There's the baby.
Right. Oh wait, I didn't grab the salt.
Yeah, he's like, is it a little pinch of salt?
You said
looks a little
don't do
hot.
the egg whites, or?
No, you
The
good.
egg
You
whites
good.
is a little, it's just like
Alright.
chewier.
Yeah.
The last category that we've already teased are the enhancer morphs. And the enhancer morphs are things like Desert Ghost, Hypo, White Lace, and these morphs are things that help other morphs really, really shine. They tend to amplify the colors, they tend to amplify the contrast, and they tend to help the animals age really, really well into adulthood. So the enhancer morphs on their own, if you are comparing a Desert Ghost to a normal, a Desert Ghost is significantly brighter, but it doesn't look that much different than a normal. So again, kind of like the pattern mutations, from the outside looking in, a lot of people tend to really focus on those color morphs initially, and that the enhancer morphs are almost an afterthought. But when it comes to the high-end side of the ball python breeding world, the enhancer morphs are, in my opinion, probably the most important part of a ball python project, because that's what's going to determine whether or not your animal or your combo that you make continues to look amazing all the way into adulthood. There are a ton of different enhancer morphs beyond Hypo, DG, and White Lace, though I do think that those three are the kings of the enhancer morph right now in 2025. But there's also stuff like Fire or Vanilla or Disco or lots of things like that, even Yellow Belly and the entire Yellow Belly complex, I think could fit into the enhancer morph space. But when we are talking about Hypo, DG, and White Lace, I think that the benefits of something like Hypo is that you tend to get a lot of different colors brought into your animal because Hypo blushes everything out. When it comes to DG, I think that it tends to accentuate and add extra contrast to the pattern of your animal. And when it comes to White Lace, you get a similar result as DG, but maybe not quite as clean, but you also get to add in an extra pattern influencing aspect due to the popcorning at the bottom of the belly for the White Lace combos. So any of these different directions are amazing ways to go, and you can tend to combine them really, really well with pretty much any pattern morph. And when it comes to the color morphs, I think the only thing that you have to be careful of is if you are looking at those albino morphs like the original albino. Because the original albino strips out all of the melanin, if you add something in like Desert Ghost to an original albino, you probably are not going to be able to tell the difference, because even if the animal is genetically a Desert Ghost albino, there is no melanin for the Desert Ghost to affect because it's already all gone. So in that situation, you might make the goal animal, but it doesn't look anything different than the original albino.
Yeah, that's a high score. I was expecting 2 out of 10. So that's pretty good.
It might be green.
Does it sound weird?
What is this? I'm like, I don't know.
I do like Bob trying to sell it, and he's like, eat the baby, eat it, eat it.
Just eat that baby.
Ignore the blood.
I mean, she worked
It
on
tastes like
chicken
very
farms.
good chicken. Yeah, but I didn't eat anything. Brittany used this spoon. I saw that, so I'm gonna be.
That's about a good. That's about a good amount.
Really gonna enhance that chicken meat flavor.
So with each category explained, we can go over the idea of combining all of them into one single project. So what we want to do for this framework is we want to take at least one morph from each of the different categories, and that is going to be the end goal for a project. So we'll use probably the top triple recessive project right now, and that is the DG Exanthic Clown. So with this project, we have the clown morph serving as the primary pattern. We have Exanthic serving as the primary color palette, and we have DG enhancing the contrast and keeping the animal looking amazing all the way through its life. So this is not the only way that you can go about it. An example of a project that hasn't been hit yet, but probably is going to be incredible, is the Sunset Hypo puzzle. And the reason why is that the Sunset Hypo looks incredible. We know that the Sunset puzzle looks amazing. So by combining both of these together, we are are probably going to result in something where we have the Sunset Puzzle pattern, but with the color palette of the Sunset Hypo, and overall that is going to be a beautiful, stunning snake that I cannot wait to see when it finally is made. But when you are approaching a project, I don't think that you should go out and look for single genes of each of these with nothing else in them. You should work the other incomplete dominant genes or other genes into your project right away. And again, just because we talked about some of the top pattern, color, and enhancement morphs doesn't mean that the other genes that exist in the hobby don't fit into this somewhere as well. But you can use that to your advantage. So let's say that maybe you are going to be working the Sunset Puzzle project, but you don't want to work Hypo. Instead, you decide that you want to work Desert Ghost, or maybe you want to work Vanilla, or something like that. The project is still probably going to go very, very well for you. And not everything needs to be a triple, quad, or pentarecessive animal in order to be amazing. But with this framework, it can provide a guide for you as you are starting out in your ball python breeding journey in order to know what morphs you should buy and which direction you should go long term. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget that this Friday on April 10th, April 11th, I'm not exactly sure what the day is, but this Friday, Courtney is taking Leviathan full time. So to celebrate, every single paid Patreon member in our Patreon on this Friday is going to get 1 month's worth of bonus credit added to their snake account for a future purchase with us. So if you sign up for the $5 tier today, on Friday, you will immediately have $10 in your account. If you sign up for the $50 tier, on Friday, you will have $100 in your account, even if you've only paid $50 for it. So if you've been thinking about joining, now is definitely the time, and we can't thank everybody enough who is already supporting us. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, we will see you next week.